Welcome to Pashua's Moment with Pastor Charles Kiyaga.
Yes, praise the Lord, brethren. We are back again on our program, the Pashua's Moment, and as always, I'm your servant, Pastor Charles, bringing you this voice that mobilizes us to seek God. And I'm seated on your prayer site called Zion, Pashua's Prayer Mountain, a site dedicated to the cause of seeking after God. And I'm here for us to talk about this message that inspires us to seek after God. We are doing a study on this man called Jacob. And yesterday we were in chapter 29 of Genesis. And we saw how Jacob eventually in the home of Laban and got a wife who was not his choice, worked hard for the one of his choice, got her. But particularly this woman, Rachel, whom Jacob loved, her womb was barren. Okay? In verses 31, then the Lord saw that Leah was unloved. When the Lord saw that Leah was unloved, he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. So Leah began bearing. But then this lady, Rachel, her sister, did not have children. When we look at chapter 30, verses 1, when Rachel saw that she bore Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister, and said to Jacob, "Give me children, or else I die." Okay? So this particular lady, Rachel, was barren. And Rachel struggled to have children to the extent that told the man, "Give me children or I die." And then Jacob's anger was aroused against Rachel and said, "Am I in the place of God, who has withheld from you the fruit of the womb?" In other words, Jacob was telling Rachel, "It is not me who determines that you have children, but it is God." I'm sure Rachel began crying to God. And of all the children that Jacob had, this particular lady had two children, and one of them was Joseph, and the other one was Benjamin. But as you know the story of these children, you'll see that this particular younger man, Joseph, was unique. Why was he unique? Because prayer went ahead of him. The woman prayed hard to God to have a child. And when eventually, because when we read in verses 22, and God remembered Rachel, and God listened to her and opened her womb. And she conceived and bore a son, and said, "God has taken away my reproach." And she called his name Joseph, and said, "The Lord shall add to me another son." So the woman prayed to God, and God heeded her prayer. And when God answered her prayer, opened her womb, and she had a son. And this is the son who is Joseph. And I know when you know the story of these children, Joseph was unique. Joseph was unique of all the children. He eventually was the beacon of hope for the entire family. They would have perished, but because this young man whom God followed. Very important. When you see Sarah was barren, and Abraham and Sarah had to pray for so long to get Isaac. Then Isaac had a wife, Rebecca. Rebecca was also barren. And then Rebecca prayed very hard for the child. And now we see even Jacob his preferred wife, Rachel, was barren. Why? It looks, following through the line, through the lineage, but it is not a coincidence. It is by purpose. Because these children who are going to be a spiritual seed needed prayer to go ahead of them. That's why it is very important for you to pray for your children, even before you give birth to them. So when they prayed for Isaac, Isaac was unique. When they prayed for Jacob was unique. Now when they prayed for Joseph was unique. So don't give birth to children for the sake of it. Don't give birth to them as biological objects. Also birth them in the spirit through travailing in prayer. Because that seed, that child who prayer goes ahead, will become unique. So now this young man, Joseph, we shall see in the scriptures, was the beacon of hope for the entire family. Because God was following through. I was following him because he was a product of prayer. So very important to pray. Very, very important. And very important to pray for children that they may be followed by God. God bless you. Begin from there tomorrow.
Eyo yibadde Pursuers Moment ngekutusiddwako essomero lya
Pursuers Junior School yesomereriza okunazaako gw'omuzadde nnako lyeddene boarding nga lisomesa abaana okuva ku nasale paka ku P7 era nga ku musingi ogutya Katonda kwelyazimbibwa lirina abasomesa abakugu abategeera kye bakola era nga liri mu kifo ekisirifu obulungi ekyemunguluddwa obutonde abaana baffe tubabangula mu by'omu kibiina n'ebyo ebibayambako obulamu obwa bulijjo muli eby'obulimi n'obulunzi. Nasale section yaffe erimu abasomesa bakwata obulungi abaana ate nga n'ebyokuzanyisa weebiri ku ssomero. Tulina n'emmotoka ezitambuza abaana. Ebitone by'abaana tubitumbula nga tuyita mu music, dance and drama saako n'ebyemizannyo. Okumanya ebisingawo kuba ku 0772 41 98 40 ne ku 0702 36 41 64. Pursuers Junior School, in pursuit of knowledge.